Okay, what we're talking about here today is just some basic little tricks to mixing epoxy hardener and the resin, so we end up getting what we just refer to as glue. These cups, you can get these right here at Home Depot for, I don't know, I think maybe $1 and some. Or we ended up going down to our local takeout Chinese and bought I think 100 of them, and it turned out to be about 20 cents each is what it worked out to be. But then the other thing is coming up with some way to mix the resin and the hardener that you didn't have to worry about keep on cleaning and getting rid of. And so what I did was just basically get some steel rod from Lowe's, and I think this is like, I don't know, maybe a 32nd or so, and I used just a Dremel cutoff to cut it off, or you can simply bend it back and forth 10 or 12 times and it'll break. But then after I end up doing that, my ultimate goal is to make this little guy right here. And so what I'll do is I'll put him in all the way down and tighten it up. Now the longer you make it, the deeper you can go in your size mixture. If you're mixing a large batch, you can get one of the paint mixing devices they use. But smaller batches, I end up using this. But the longer you make it, the more unstable it gets at high speeds. But I'll just use a pair of needle nose pliers, and we'll end up just taking it and bending it around back on itself, like so. And so by bending it back around on itself, the sharp edges are back kind of in the middle, and I end up with enough of a circle here. Just try to take the edge of it off and make sure that it's good and tight. But again, when you turn your Dremel on, if you turn it on high RPM, it will sit there and wobble to a 90 degree. But now that I've got my resin in, I'm going to add the hardener here to it real quick. And what we're going for is the consistency of peanut butter, real thick. You almost can't make it thick enough. But now I've got the hardener resin. I've got my new little mixing device that I have here, and I can drop it in, turn it on real slow. As long as it's under pressure, you can see what a nice job that it does of mixing the two components. But again, if you pull it out and you go high speed and you turn the power in the wrong direction, you'll end up with a really dangerous combination. If you notice, I've got gloves on, long sleeve shirt. I should be wearing a mask right now. I'm not, so I can talk to everybody else. So now we're going to add our, I always say it wrong, Cabo Seal. And this just helps keep, gets it nice and thick for us. Like so. So I'll spend some time mixing this up, and we'll see what the end result is. And you can see what we've done here now is we've mixed enough of the Cabo Seal into the hardener and resin. We come up with epoxy glue, and it's nice and thick. I'm not getting any temperature for kickoff at all. I'm going to end up splitting this up into two different bags. And again, when you pull your rotating mixer out, make sure that you slow the RPM down. If not, it will spin so much that it'll go 90 degrees, and I've seen it break off here and go flying across the garage. But anyway, so I'll end up just taking, you can see the consistency of what I've mixed is just almost like peanut butter. I mean, it really, you almost can't make it too thick for some of the applications. When you're using it to wet your cloth, your fiberglass cloth, you're not going to put any additives to it at all. And by the way, this stuff is made by some guys out of Wilmington, North Carolina, called greenboardroom.com. I've only read what's on the internet about them, but I think it's about 3 guys that kind of got together and came up with a potion that makes some really, really hard stuff. And again, with a cold mold boat, virtually up until you start putting the latches and hardware on, you are not having any metal at all in the boat. It is absolutely all glue and wood. And so this is what I'm going to put in this first bag so that I can have it in 2 separate bags, because this is like liquid gold. What's pretty neat is I'll work the air out of it and then I'll seal it up. And then what's really neat is I end up just taking it down to one side and got a pair of scissors right over here. And then, just like, depending upon what size bead you want, all I'll end up doing is cutting off the end of the Ziploc bag, and you can see that that is about the size of bead of glue that I'm going to get out, that I'm going to use banding my shear band tonight.